Hello, guys. My name is Leslie Alfredsson. I have the pleasure to welcome you to the fourth session of DigiHop Once Upon a Failure. We all make mistakes, but some opt to cover them up and never speak about them. But you and I are not like that. You see failure as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to bounce back. And that's why you are watching this show. DigiHop supports companies and the public sector with digitalization. And through Once Upon a Failure, the idea is to highlight that the journey of digitalization isn't always easy, and that's okay. We do this by sharing stories of failure in a light-hearted and fun manner, using a virtual studio and a stage from our invited guests. The emphasis is on lessons learned and cultivating a culture of openness around the common challenges we face in digitalization. Embracing failure is heroic. So let me dive right in and introduce our first hero of the day. Hello.
Hello, Leslie.
How are you, Luciano?
I'm fine. This going to be soon a beautiful day. It was a little bit cold this morning, but it's getting better. It looks like.
Yeah, but it's fantastic to have you here. And before we start, I have to inform about our guests that Stefan cannot join because still some corona around and so on. So he's down for this session. But we have two fantastic guest speakers. That is you, Luciano, and Therése. That you had fantastic stories to share, and we'll have more time to discuss. But before you start, let me introduce who you are. And Luciano Pasquariello, did I say it right? I hope so.
Pretty good.
Global Sales Manager at Scanfil, Vellinge, and Ave. Yep. He has been working for many years in AMS and R&D of electronic hardware, operations, engineering, and sales. The main focus on new companies with novel ideas and need for a guide in the EMS and R&D jungle. That is quite challenging. Representing Scanfil, Northern Europe's largest EMS company. So, welcome, Luciano. The stage is just yours. Are you ready to share your presentation?
Yep. So I decided to. I meet a lot of companies, typically between 30 and 40 companies a year. But I actually decided to share my own failure. And what the journey we had. So I'm going to present. Let me check. There we go. Can you see my screen? Do you see my screen, Leslie?
Yes, we can see your screen. Yes, it's working perfectly. Hear you. Yes, it's working. Yes. Yes, we can see your screen. Yes. We can see your screen. It's working. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, you are completely, it's working. Okay, I think he has some connection problems, but soon he will be back. Therése, do you feel ready? To jump in?
Of course, always.
Okay, what happened, Luciano?
I don't know.
Did you have some
share my screen
technical problems?
So I shared my screen and then everything went black. I didn't hear you, Leslie. So
are you ready now? Again? Yeah. Okay, so now we will keep the rest here. So we have this discussion, the three of us. We support each other if something goes wrong. Yeah. So yes, please share your screen now. So we are.
Let's
Yes.
see. Can you
Yes.
see anything?
We
Perfect.
can hear, and we will be here with you, so you don't feel lonely.
Yeah, so you can see my screen, and on your right side, I think
Yes.
at least, you
Yes.
will see actually a loudspeaker.
Yes.
So I had back in 2007, I started this project, and we had an idea to make a loudspeaker that didn't look like a loudspeaker, and that was, and then also we wanted to put everything in a package, so you basically just controlled it via your phone. And this was very novel back in 2007. Um, so that was basically the idea behind it. And so we also knew that we couldn't compete with the big brands, so we had to make something truly spectacular and basically hand built. So when I started, audio was first considered to have low audio quality. So and Spotify had just been launched. So and we actually had a technical solution for making high quality audio. So we managed that, and then in the business, high end speakers, you talk about the Wi-Fi factor, which basically means wives and girlfriends don't like all the cables and the blinking screens and etc. So we wanted to make something totally unique, and we didn't have a 100-year history, so we had to go on what they was very kind of a new trend, and that was history telling the back. So after a lot of sketching and testing and verifying everything, we pulled it off, and we launched it in the end of 2010. Actually 2011, sorry. Everything legal side, and we being engineers, and I had at least some eye for design. We totally underestimated the level of marketing you needed. So basically, you could say that our idea was that we should sell 3-4.
I think Luciano's having some issues with his connection, right? Yes. Yeah, I think he's having some issue with his connection at the moment. So I guess he needs to restore his computer, perhaps. But it was like very, very interesting talk. And I hope he can come back soon, because I think there is something wrong with his computer. Life happens. Once upon a failure, what we can do, guys. So, Therése, are you ready now? Because I think he's really having problems with his connection.
I'm ready.
Are you ready? So let me introduce you. You know, it's like fantastic when things happen like this. We have to be ready, and we have to stay, you know, like this cool head and try to do our best. So Therése Boija, she's coordinator of the Agency for Digital Government. Therése is a business developer by heart and is formally educated as a communications officer. How she came to work with digitalization is somewhat of an enigma, even for her. Maybe it's because she never said no to a new opportunity. That's fantastic, Therése. And
Thank
with
you.
experience from innovation work, mostly innovation contests and of late digital education, she is now fully committed to give her contributions to the digital development of our modern society. So, Therése, now the stage is yours, and we hopefully we can get Luciano back pretty soon.
Hopefully. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak for you all today. And I'm going to share my
Yes.
screen, if you can tell me
Yes.
when you see it.
Yes, now we're ready. And I think we have Luciano back. So I will have it here on the side. I think he's still having problems with the connection, but
Yeah.
you can share your story with us. Thank you.
Okay, good. Hello, everyone. Therése Boija, and I am a firm believer failure is more of an obsess, something we can learn from and to grow from. I am here today to share with you the case of what I thought was a simple web page, an event web page. Now, created many events, and it is a jungle out there with different platforms, but not a single one that could be found that combined my three absolute must-haves. I was told that I simply had to choose between one or another. Here's a little thing you need to know about me. When I'm told that something can't be done, I feel this urge that I need to prove them wrong. So, the initial idea was to create a simple digital event space when having an online innovation contest event. So, what I was trying to achieve was, in my head, a basic web page with two functions. One public page with basic knowledge about the contest, and one locked landing page where the participants could get access to all the different systems involved. Preferably without having to log in to all of the different functions that we had. I wanted a seamless experience, in other words. Oh, and not to forget my three head demands. It needed to be GDPR proofed, post Schrems 2, if you know what that is, how to reach level AA in web accessibility, and it had to be cyber secured. So it's three demands. It's governed by law, so I need to follow these three rules. I don't want to break the law. That's why I wanted these things to work. Now, I thought that my demands were simple enough. I showed them my vision with a system image on how everything should work, and the reply from the sales rep was, this is not an adequate order. So this should have been my first clue in what was about to come, because we didn't have a great start in establishing a good relationship. My expectations were quite few, well, according to my logic anyway. For me, the result was more important. So they had a fixed deadline, and they assured me that they knew what was best when it came to the architecture. Headless CMS for site vision sounded easy enough, sounded great actually. So I trusted them in this project and the project manager they appointed from their side. I trusted they would deliver on time and tell me immediately if something went wrong. So what did go wrong? As you can see from my image here, that my inner child was actually crying. I had a tantrum deluxe in my head, not outwards. I had analyzed this situation many times after, and every time I have come to the same conclusion. It actually boils down to just one detail. And that was that the consultants assumed that Sight Vision worked like any other CMS when it came to a headless structure. So they created a headless structure, and then, because of their assumption, they also had to develop their own APIs to connect to Sight Vision, something they didn't count on to do. A problem I was informed just 4 weeks before we were going to start the event. So this was 6 weeks after the deadline I actually gave them. And the project manager turned this all around on me, saying that they were not at fault. It turned out this way. And it was someone else's fault. Everything was someone else's fault, not theirs. So my mistake in this was my assumption that before presenting me with their solution of a headless CMS, in a CMS they apparently never worked with in the first place, they would have made sure to know what preconditions that they had working with Sight Vision, which they never did. So suffice to say that the delivery was incomplete and delayed. So even before the solution was complete, they had depleted all of the budget allocated for the developers. In order to develop the solution further, they required more money, more time, and they also refused when I offered to bring in an expert in Sight Vision in order to help them. They tried to force me to lower my demand on web accessibility and argued that I had to fix someone to do the penetration tests for them. So 4 weeks before the event start, I had a half-finished solution that couldn't be used, and they had just presented me with one simple open web page with over 200 faults in the web accessibility part. So the close part wasn't even started, hence my picture of a pig. So in my team, we were already at full speed and we worked as fast as we could to get everything done. This was the last thing that we needed. The extra burden of not having a platform for the event and the risk of having to cancel the event was imminent. And somehow we found an extra gear to work, and we worked even harder. But the conversation that I had to have with my boss, informing him that the future was bleak and we might not be able to hold the event, was the most terrible moment of my professional life. I also cried out for help within my organization, and they were more than happy to aid me in my time of need. So, just going to do that, sorry. Okay, so in the middle of this nightmare, one would think that we had to cancel the event, but you don't know me. I'm a person that am always prepared for the worst case scenario, and I have at least 3 contingency plans if something goes wrong. So we put Plan B in action 2 weeks before even the event started, and I pulled all the internal resources I could to help us deliver Plan B. So instead of the seamless experience of a public web page, a login to secure an event space for participants, I've got this. We had to compromise and use the resources already existing. A public web page, the only usable part, and then a registration form, a live stream platform, and a video meeting platform where the links to the event were sent by email instead of having a page collecting everything in one page. And thankfully, all important and vital functionality for the event was something I had procured separately, so we could still utilize these. So what did I learn? Well, consultants live on what income they can get and might not be able to turn down a project. So they embellish a bit in order to get the job. So I will never again assume that they have the actual know-how. Now, I don't blame the developers one bit. It was the project manager that decided to keep me in the dark, and he acted as a gatekeeper to the developers. When I finally got to talk with the developers, I got a much better communication with them. It turns out they didn't even know my biggest priorities because that wasn't communicated down to them. So in order to get the page accessible and safe, my colleagues within my organization helped us out as much as they could. And in the end, we could solve a bit of the solution instead of just throwing it away. So that's a small win anyway. So knowing when to send up a red flag for help is vital in order to succeed. My advice to you, dear listeners, is to dare to make demands. Even if they say they know, ask for proof. Know that they will never find the solution as important as you. Make sure you have all details sorted out on who does what and the definition of done before you sign the contract. You can never be clear enough with your expectations. And always, always, always be prepared that everything can go horribly wrong. Plan for contingency actions in all aspects of a project, so you have plan B, C, and D ready if you need to use them. Now, this is not a story to deter you from using consultants. If I had more knowledge, more time, and more assertion, I think this would have turned out differently. I also had to abide by governmental procurement laws as well. So that's the situation I was in. So, in conclusion, I am glad to inform you that the competition took place and the contestants turned in very good contributions. We had a magical time because in the end, the big point was to gather around an important subject and finding solutions that was good for all of our society. So they didn't know my grand plans, and none the wiser with plan B. They tried so hard at winning anyway. So even if all of your plans won't work, never let it show the moment it counts, because the only time we trust, or the only time we truly fail at something, is when we give up. Thank you so much for your time.
It was fantastic listening to your story. And I think also this will be a great discussion together with Luciano later on, because I think they go hand in hand. And I please, all of you that are watching, if you have any questions, please feel free to write in the chat. So then we will be able to share these questions with our guests, so we can discuss about this later on. So let's see. Luciano, are you back now? How is your internet going?
Yeah, hello. I wonder if it's that I have a presentation in presentation mode. So maybe that's the.
Maybe.
So I don't know if we can. Is there time for me to do a quick?
I was thinking that perhaps
The audio is going back and forth, Leslie. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that you have some problems with your connection. But what we can do is like, if that's okay for you, you can tell us your story. You have problems with your connection when you share the presentation, so you can share your
it could
story
be.
verbally.
So
Yes.
So I hope you got a glance of the product. It was a loudspeaker.
We don't need a PowerPoint. We
I don't
have
know how much you caught at all.
we have your knowledge. So if you want, you can just share the story, and it will hear by your side.
Yeah. So the idea was to make something unique that nobody had done before. So we made this unique one-piece audio system. And the challenges was that we were engineers, so we had pretty good idea on how to do all the stuff. Although you had to learn a lot about, especially for me, with mechanics and 3D printing, etc. But so that worked pretty okay. But then the whole plan was that we sell a couple of speakers that were quite expensive, and with that money we would continue the marketing. What we did underestimate, however, was we had a vague idea who our customers were: rich people and people who appreciated these handcrafted stuff. But we didn't really know how to approach them. Where are they? Except for in a specific country or city. That didn't really narrow it down. So that was a big lesson, and this was pre-social media. So well, Spotify was there, but we didn't have Instagram, Facebook in the way we're using them today. But anyway, so we went out on exhibitions, more or less the ones we could afford. And then slowly getting a hang of our customers and how to approach them. But that was a big hurdle. And then on let me see here. I have to. And also the logistics. A silly problem was that our speaker is 100 kilo. So it was quite difficult to transport back and forth. And if I had a customer that wanted to see it, was an installation process. So the whole thing was quite difficult to handle. But anyway, so we started to look on how could we target, and we actually found that we had to approach distributors. And this is something that I see with a lot of customers that I help. That you have an idea that you have a web page, and you see it on the web page, and you sell through the web page, and but it doesn't work. Leslie, can you still hear me? By the way.
Yeah, we are here. No, we're listening. You're live.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
I'm just worried that I'm speaking for 15 minutes and there's nobody there.
You're here. I'm here. I can be next to you.
But anyway, so we realized that we have to have distributors helping us out. They know their customers, they know the market, how they works, and all of that. And eventually, we did find that the yacht owners were something that you could use. What also happened was that expensive grew, and it was me and a partner who had 50% share. But since we needed cash, I had to dilute my share. So I had to sell my share to others because I couldn't put in more money of my own. And this is another typical example of that you have all these great ideas, but the more money you spend, you're more ending up diluting your own share of the company. But eventually, we did find some good help, and we had collaboration with very interesting companies, and we got in a little bit better salespersons that knew the market, and a little bit like the previous speaker said, you trusted a lot of people, and they were quite good at showing that they could do it. But when it really came to critical status, they didn't deliver, basically. So again, we had to revise our market plan, really put in the efforts, set up a new strategy, and all that. I would like to tell you that the story ended successfully. We did manage to sell a couple of units, but I didn't have the cash needed to take this all the way, and I personally ran out of money. So after 7 years, I had to find a job, basically. And it was the company still exists, but it isn't really a full-time company as I would have hoped. So what did I learn? Well, I learned that you need to plan for everything, not just the things you're best at. You also need to have a strategy before you execute it, and really have people looking at that strategy and the plan, and check that you don't do anything wrong, because it costs a lot of money. And my final advice would be that if you think you need a certain amount of money, triple that, and then hopefully you can do it. So that is my experience from that. Then, of course, with now the questions we hopefully have, I can answer much more questions for 2 more down to earth products. But it's interesting. You talked about a website, Therése, and I talked about a super expensive loudspeaker. But still, we have all these common things.
Yes.
Of trusting people, trusting experts, hoping that you have, and you don't really know the network. So yeah, that is very briefly. Didn't have a plan, but at least something.
Yeah, but it's so interesting, and thank you very much for sharing your stories. You are very brave, but also I think that I would like to start by, please guys, if you have any questions, you can share them through the chat, and I will be very happy to ask to our guests. But I think there is something very important we should discuss, that is about soft skills. I think it's like we are we focus too much in the development, and maybe like finding the funding, that we will go to that part, that is very important. But you both guys, you have to use these soft skills about like being like resilient, about like like accept when you are actually that you cannot control things. So could you could you elaborate a little bit about this, your experience, what did you feel and what did you learn as a person from these experiences? So I will start with Therése, and then we go with Luciano.
What did I learn? Well, it was actually my first project, developing a web page with other people, and my first time working with an IT consultant firm as well. So I think it's more of a language barrier, and maybe it's not a language barrier that you think. It's more like you get a lot of people on the way before you get down to the developers. So you need to talk 3 different languages, one to the sales rep, one to the project manager, and one to the developers. And I think sometimes that we need to cut out the middleman and dare to talk to the developers directly, because you need to be able to share with them your vision, and that is the software you need to use and utilize. So next time I will ask for talking to them directly, so they can hear my vision more clearly, and also know what are my trigger points, what are my priorities, because they didn't know how to prioritize and what to do, because the project manager never gave them that information. So it was lost in translation, basically.
Yeah.
So it's the communication thing that I need to put more pressure on, I think.
And Luciano, what about your experience? What did you learn? Like, what do you
It's funny
develop in
because
this?
you're talking software and I'm talking, you're talking software and I'm talking hardware, but it's actually the same. And I think, you have a vision of your final product or in this case, your software. But there is so much you can do before that and be more honest. So first of all, as you said, you have to be structured. You need to know what is it that I really want with this product. One way is to set up a specification. And I think the best thing with the specification is to differ between functionality that you must have and you should have. Because it's and then of course functional that's to have that you can get basically for free, or it doesn't really ruin the whole package, because the must ones, that's are the ones why people actually going to buy your product or use your service. They are good to have, but if they interfere too much in terms of delaying the development time, taking more money, or introduce other types of risks that interfere. So I think do your homework and really focus on what is it that I want. And then, as you also rightly pointed out, Therése, how do I know that I'm speaking to persons or experts that can help me? So really inquisitive of what have they done, because I see a lot of times that experts, sometimes you have experts that are very good, and sometimes you have experts, but I don't you need to understand which, because sometimes when you speak to an expert, he has 30-40 years experience and he thinks you know certain stuff, and it could be the simple stuff that you don't understand. It could be an acronym or it could be a referencing. So ask the really stupid question and really say, I don't understand it. You're saying that you can do this, but how do you do it?
Because I think this is like a common
that
challenge.
Is very important to.
Yeah, I think that is like a common challenge, right? That when you work with consultants, so you say that you have repeated this several times. So it's like to dare to ask questions, to dare to ask for cases, like really dare to do it, because what you said is like many of them, they are very good at selling but not at delivering. So if you have any like a specific question that you think that could be like a good advice, like regarding about the amount of hours, about the results, like in your experience in both you,
I think
Therése,
that is
and Luciano, you both.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good idea to ask them. You can get quite a lot if you ask them how much time do you need to do this task. And if you ask the same question to 2 or 3, then you have some kind of a baseline.
Okay.
Then you can figure out yourself that you charge, I don't know, euros an hour, 100 euros an hour, and then you do a math. If that doesn't stop, sometimes they're really stupid because they tell you that I will have this done in 2 weeks, and 2 weeks is 80 hour full bill time, and if that amounts to 300 euro an hour, maybe. So then you have to ask, why does it take so much time, and why are you charging me this hourly rate? And then you listen to their answers. Sometimes they say, well, I have these machines, I have to do this and this, and that costs a lot of money.
That's a very good advice.
So you start to get an understanding of why is this
The
costing so
resources,
much. And I always tell my customer, if you don't understand the process, it's always too expensive and it takes too long time. But when you do understand the process, oh wow, you're doing all that. You need all that equipment. You need all these licenses, all of this. Then you get a feeling for it. So that's also a good way to flush out these so because they
I think we're losing Luciano a little bit now. I think we're losing you. You are lagging. But Therése, can you share with us your experience? What your the questions that we should ask?
I actually agree with Luciano that you need to ask them how much time do you think this is going to take, and ask them the tough questions. Dare to be a bit, inquisitive and a bit dumb. Maybe dumb it down for me. Talk to me in Swedish, please, or in English, or in a plain language that I can understand. But I would also say that it all comes down to a bit of reasoning as well. Do I find it reasonable that a web page should take to develop? I don't find that relevant, and I don't agree with my reasoning. You need to have the arguments to I'm wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong as long as I know exactly what it is I'm getting from the consultants. Because after this experience, I've been working with a lot of other developers and other companies that have solutions that I've bought from them and stuff, and everything has been working smoothly with them, and I'm glad to say. But the next time I meet someone who starts by talking down to me, that person is not a person I'm going to hire the next time.
That's a that is a very good
Yeah.
advice, that
Yeah.
you need to have this like communication, because at the end you're the client, and it's like you're like dumb, like it's like a learning process. So it's a very good soft skill from, I guess, I think, yeah, a consultant should have, to really explain you what is the project about, and answer to all your questions without looking down. So I have some questions here from the audience, and it's what's the most important lesson you have learned from this that helped you in your position today? So Luciano, could you please answer this first?
So sorry, what was the question again?
The question is what's the most important lesson you have learned from this that helped you in your position today?
I would say that being humble is quite a good treat, because being humble means that even if you meet persons that don't have your experience, they'll always ask. They sometimes have an angle that you haven't thought about, and that angle makes you think and makes you learn something new. So if I have to generalize, that's the skill to listen to people and really try to understand what it they want, because sometimes they're telling me something, but they haven't really realized that they want something different. So their view of a result is maybe a little bit fluffy, and if you meet all these experts, they can tell you that this is not possible, but this is possible, and your idea kind of changes a little bit. So you have to try to understand people, being how listen. I think that's the biggest challenges, and
It's actually very interesting what
So
you
you can
mentioned, because it's we I think that the common challenge you guys and we all face is mainly like communication, rather than people having the skills
yeah.
to develop and code. It's like the communication. So I do believe that is something, it's a great lesson we have learned today, that we have to learn to communicate better. What do you have to add about this, Therése?
Well, it's funny thing about communication, because I'm a communications officer. We actually developed the language, or a way to communicate, as a state of survival, that we need to gather to survive. When we saw this big animal in the forest, where we were gatherers and hunters, someone just decided that, look, there's food on 4 legs, but if I try to kill that beast, I'm going to die. That's the consequence thinking, right? So how do I do this? Okay, so I see a lot of other people around me. I try to communicate, and this is before we even had the language. So this is the body language talking as well. And come here, look here, come here and help me kill this beast, and we get tons of food for weeks. So it's actually quite funny that we have this great tool that we can use and hone, but there's so few people that actually know how to use it. So a communication can never be, you can never communicate too much, actually. So sorry, that was just a reflection on my part.
No, I really thank you very much. And then it's like I have a last question. And I think this will be great for those that are watching and that are a little bit younger. And I would like, there is the question that says, what could be your best advice to your younger self that you would like to know when you started your career? So Luciano, what would be this advice that you would leave yourself when you are like 20 something and pretty new,
I think,
fresh out from school?
yeah, I think you touched on this, and that is that don't assume that that even if you talk to an introvert, that they know they pretend. So have your I would say that I would be less awed by even people, be a little bit more critical, but you don't have to be offensive, of course. You just ask questions. You need to have a couple of questions that kind of makes them think that, wow, this is not something I just can brush off. I need to think a little bit before I answer. So I think that's what I've been told. Don't trust people. And I mean, I don't think they do it from an evil perspective. It's just that people typically want to be portrayed as they sometimes are. And sometimes experts are very good, but they are basically repeating knowledge that is 10, 15 years old. And sometimes it works, but most of the times when you really push comes to shove, it doesn't. So the advice I give to myself and other young people, though,
Thank
you don't
you,
have to be offensive,
Luciano.
obviously, but push them a little bit more.
No. And Therése, tell me this advice to your young self.
Well, I agree with Luciano, of course, but to tell you, I'm a bit of a drama queen, and it was worse when I was younger, because everything that happened was blown out of proportion, and I was like, what to do now? Everything is going to, the world is ending, really going there. So my advice is actually calm down, and everything will actually sort out, or you will make sure it sorts out. Just trust in your gut feeling, and it will definitely work out.
Thank you guys for being here today. Do you have something else that would you like to add before we say goodbye to our audience?
I just want to say that this has
I
been
have
great.
one advice that may seem.
Yes, Luciano, please go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Leslie?
Yes,
no
we
advice
hear
that
you perfectly.
it's a boring advice, but something you need to. And that is that because sometimes I have inventing or do good check on what to do this to put it on the market. So suddenly they realize that they can't put the product in the market because they are violating some rule. And if you haven't done your homework on that, everything you've done is just a waste, because you're infringing a patent. You have your product can't be CE marked or whatever. So it's a boring small thing. It's not one to have in the end. Put it that way.
Yeah, no, but it's fantastic. Thank you. I think it's also like Therése, I think something also you face a lot in the public sector. You know that there are tons of regulations that you have to be pretty aware and also like have
Yeah.
contact with those that have the knowledge, because
Mm.
sometimes it's like we may, as someone wrote here, like assumptions is the mother of you know what.
Mm.
So we should not assume. And thank you very
Yeah.
much, really, for being here today, Therése and Luciano. It has been really
Thank
a pleasure to get to
Thank
know
you.
you. And guys, thank you all of you for watching. This is the last session of these 4 sessions we have had the past year. It has been really fantastic for me to be with you and be your host. And thank you guys, and let's continue like failing. This is the only way we learn. So see you next
thank
time and see you around. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.